Have you noticed that stress has become a big part of life? We see it everywhere. We see it in our relationships, in our business. We hear about it everywhere. Health, spirituality, right? We can get stressed out over our my practices. The common denominator for all stress, bold statement, the common denominator is the way that we process what's happening through our minds. In other words, the meaning that we give it, right? Two people can experience the same event. One is stressed out and the other is not. That tells us that we individually process the events that are happening around us and the circumstances. My talk today is Life Beyond Stress and Judging Hearts, as we are wrapping up our February series of The Heart of the Soul. And as I've done my research this week, I came across a lot of ideas from our founder, Ernest Holmes, about law and about judgment. Now, if you think legalistically, you might think about our legal system, laws and judges and court and juries and all of that. And those are the physical laws, some of the physical laws, civil laws, I guess I should say. And we're talking about the spiritual laws, of course, today. And if you have prior teaching or old ideas that are still hanging on around the angry God of the Old Testament, the one that was judging and kept notes. Remember that? Noting every bad thing that you do. You have to atone and account for those when you get to the pearly gates and meet St. Peter. You might be thinking of that angry guy in the sky, the one that's all judgmental. Now, we don't teach that here, though, do we? In the science of mind, our spirituality is about love. And then we teach the law as the law of cause and effect. And that's the teaching that Jesus taught. Love is the way, law makes the way possible, is what Ernest Holmes used to say. And so that's what we teach. Ernest's teaching says that when we judge, we are judged. When we criticize, we are criticized. We face criticism. When we love, we're loved. When we are compassionate, we experience compassion, right? When we judge by appearances, we are limiting our experience then of life, limiting the possibilities, because we live in this field of infinite possibilities. But we're limiting that because of the past, because of the way that we've judged things in the past. Something happens. We have a card catalog. Remember, most of us, I think, are old enough to remember card catalogs in the library, right? Yeah. You pull out the drawer and you go through and you find the topic or the book that you're looking for. And we have that here. This happens. Pull that card. It must be that. Therefore, that's what that means. Never really giving it any more consideration, more depth or research, or is it true? Is that true? Because there's so much happening in our world that we need a condensed system to get to things quickly, don't we? Yeah, to get to things quickly. But sometimes getting to things quickly creates stress in us because we're putting the same experience into play, right? The same experience. For me, stress shows up when I'm feeling like I'm overscheduled. Now, granted, this is self-inflicted because I control my schedule, right? Yeah. But I also am a recovering perfectionist. And when I take something on, I have a tendency to overdo, take a little longer than I need to on it, because my good enough line is way out there in infinity someplace. And so I keep working on things. I keep researching. I keep playing with it. It's never quite right. Never quite right. What are your stressors? You see me do this. What are your stressors? What things bring you stress? Is it family? Some people have family that just creates all this stress and drama in their lives. Is it your business? Finances. Boy, that can do it, can it? Finances can create stress. Yeah. Why do we allow these things to get under our skin? Are they really getting in our mind? Poking our ego, maybe? Getting us riled up? Do you ever find that when you're feeling stressed, you really want to blame what's in front of you for that stress? If they would stop doing that, they wouldn't be stressing me out. I wouldn't feel so stressed if they behave. Why did they give me a deadline so short? Why did they even ask me to do this? And why does Google have so many little interesting articles everywhere when I'm just looking up the weather forecast? And Facebook. Why does it have that scroll thing that just peeks at you to let you know there's one more thing to read? You ever found yourself thinking about any of those things? Sound familiar? Any of those stressors for you? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just wasted 30 minutes on Facebook. What was I thinking? You may resonate with some of those. You may have a bucket load of your own stressors. But whatever it is, that is the stress, it really is about how you're choosing to process what's happening through your mind. It's about how you're choosing to process it through your mind. Are we feeling truly afraid about something and reacting to that and calling it stress? Are we getting frustrated or angry? Are we confused or concerned? And yet it's labeled stress. We process it as stress, and our body then reacts with stress. Because what happens is the event is occurring in our mind. That's where we start to process it. And if we go to that old card catalog and we pull out that same old story about what it means, all the bells, whistles, and alarms go off in our head, and our body starts producing all of those chemicals. Cortisol and all the glands and everything gets active, and boom, our body's filled with all of that. And now we're stressed, right? Now we're stressed because we've pulled that old story. We've judged what that is to be what it has been in the past. And now we instantly go to blame. All of that happens in about a minus negative nanosecond, doesn't it? It happens just immediately. It happens immediately in our bodies. And we know through science and health studies and things that continual process of stress on our bodies just wears them down. It just wears them down. Our book of the month has been all about processing emotions. He talks a lot about chakras without calling them chakras, but energy centers in the body, and how we process either through as love or fear. And depending on how we're processing through those different centers is how we feel. If we're processing through fear, he says that we can have pain in those areas of our body, actual physical pain, symptoms. And so thinking about that, when I'm stressed, am I likely in fear rather than in love? Usually. Ernest Holmes taught that we can have no understanding of divine compassion unless we ourselves first exercise compassion. The very judgment by which we judge others becomes self-judgment. It is as if the law of life were giving back to each of us exactly what we projected into it, as though everything that goes out from us must return by a law of action and reaction. The law of circulation says the same thing. The law of reflection, mirror effect, says the same thing. All of these are spiritual laws of cause and effect. Of cause and effect. When we judge someone, we're making an assumption about them without any knowledge of what's true. Example, one of my favorites, traffic. Somebody cuts me off, right? This guy. It's funny, I'm using this picture. There were actually two pictures of this guy. One was using sign language, but I didn't think that was necessarily appropriate for Sunday morning, so I used this one. But you know this feeling, do you not? If you've driven on the freeways in Arizona, you know this feeling. So when that happens, they've jumped in our lane. We've had to slam on our brakes. We've had to worry about somebody hitting us, or our brakes not working soon enough to hit him, or swerving into the other lane, or who knows what could possibly happen. You are a jerk, and it's your fault that I'm so angry. So we go from judging the person that did the thing to instant blame for the way that I feel. It's your fault. Right? It's instantaneous. It's instantaneous. We judge before we blame. And we're judging what's going on based on old experiences. And then we instantly blame whatever's happening out there for how I'm feeling about it, because we've processed it through our brain, through our body that way. So how can we heal this? How can we heal this judging heart that we have, that I have? I won't put that on you. I'll put that on me. This judging heart. How can I heal this judging heart? If it's good for you, just feel free to take it. First, we have to accept that our feelings belong to us, right? We all get afraid. We all get afraid. We've all been conditioned not to let anybody know we're afraid, because that then appears to be weak. And heaven forbid we be weak. We must be strong, independent. But we all get afraid. I mean, I hear something in the night and I'm still afraid. I want to poke Ron and go, you go check it out. I'm not getting up. But I don't. Be brave. I'll get up and go check. Yeah. So we're all afraid, and it's okay. Accept our feelings that that's what's happening here. Tony Robbins. Anybody know Tony Robbins? I love Tony. He tells a story about being at an event years ago, a long time ago. And Tony's a pacer, if you've ever seen him. He's all over the stage, big man, pacer. And this was when they still had microphones with long cords on them. And he's walking around. He walks over to this side of the stage, and the microphone starts crackling. He kind of steps away, and the audience goes, "It's the night." There's an armor suit at the side of this stage, the venue that he's at. And he goes, "Really, you think it's the night?" And they're going, "Yeah." So he walks back over, and sure enough, the microphone crackles. And they all go, yeah, it's the night. It's the night. He goes, "Are you sure you think it's the night?" And they're going, "Yeah, it's the night. It's the night." And he's like, "I'm not sure." And he walks back over again, Tony. And it crackles again. About the time he comes back, and he goes, okay. And on the stage comes running a stagehand, and he grabs the cord and he twists it. It had an extension on it because it was too short of a cord. And every time Tony would stretch that cord out, that connection would wiggle just enough to cause the microphone to crackle. And when the stagehand tightened it, The crackle went away. He went over, ran the microphone up and down the suit, and nothing happened. It's a great example of how we jump to conclusions. How we open that file drawer and go, it must be that. Couldn't possibly be anything but that night, standing right there, because it's the only thing that's different. But it wasn't true. It wasn't true. So how are we jumping to conclusions, false conclusions, casting judgment? The night is wrong because he's making the microphone crackle. It's the night's fault that I can't hear what this wonderful speaker is saying. The night is making the microphone crackle. Blame. Judgment and blame, that quick. Jumping to conclusions. We may never know why that driver cut us off in traffic last week. We may never know, probably won't ever know, right? But wouldn't we be better off? Wouldn't our well-being be better off to just simply give them the benefit of the doubt? To send them a blessing for safe travels, safely reaching their destination because they're obviously in a hurry to get there? We don't know what the story is. We're making it up. Would we be better off, feel better, if we blessed them instead of cursing them? If we said a little prayer, we would feel better. We would feel better. Healing a judging heart means changing our reactions to responses. Viktor Frankl, in between the act and the action, there's the moment of making a decision. And making that decision, making that choice, having the presence of mind to say, I'm not going to react like that guy did. I don't need to practice my sign language today. I'm going to practice blessing instead. I'm going to practice saying a prayer instead, that person gets there safely, because they're obviously in need of getting there sooner than everybody else, or they think they're going to. And so I'm going to say a prayer for them and for me and for my own safety, because I know I'm in the perfect right place at the perfect right time to ensure my complete and total safety. And I know that for them as well. We can change how we choose to respond to the things that happen to us and reduce that stress that we experience. Changing our reactions to responses is what we teach here at the Science of Mind. So our curriculum includes our spiritual practices. We include meditation, visioning, affirmative prayer, affirmations, journaling. We teach that so that as we practice this and embody it, we can begin to apply it and live it in our life. Because it's a heady teaching. We talked about that a week or so ago, didn't we? That it's an intellectual teaching, and we love it because it makes so much sense and it's so logical. But until we embody it and get it into the heart space and actually live it and practice it, that's when it begins to become truly effective for us in our lives. Relevant. When we learn better responses to life's challenges, we can stop judging and we can begin to live from compassion. And I guarantee you, when we start doing that, stress is reduced. Stress is reduced. If you would like to study these principles and embody them more in your life and apply them more, I invite you to sign up for our Mindful Monday newsletter. You can do that with the QR code. You can send me an email, or you can sign up in the lobby. And we send out an email every Monday morning. That's a summary of today's talk. It gives you details on the practices that you can then use in your life throughout the week as reminders of what we talk about on Sunday, as how to use these practices and how to apply them to real life situations as they happen for you throughout the week. So you can sign up for that if you would like to. Number one is to change the story. To change the story. When something happens this week, and you're choosing to feel stressed, Yes, it's a choice. Pause and ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling that's causing my body to stress? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it confusion? Is it fight, flight, or freeze? What what is the emotion? Can I get in touch with that so that I can recognize it and I can process it through love instead of through fear, through doubt? Do you find yourself wanting to blame someone for what's happening? What judgment have you cast about this person or situation? We judge it first and then we blame. And then ask yourself, what else could it possibly be? If I was going to make up a story about this, what other story could I make up besides the one that I initially was starting to go down that path on? What else could it be? Why could that driver be in such a hurry? Oh, they've got a flight to catch. They've got a sick relative, or they've got a grand vacation that they can't miss their flight. And the babysitter was late to take care of the kids, and so they were late. They couldn't just leave the kids. They had to stay at home till the babysitter got there. The babysitter got there, and then they had to get in the car, and then they had to rush. Oh my gosh. Or Uber was late, and now that's really an Uber driver. I mean, we can make up some. The pregnant wife is in the back about to have the baby, got to get her to the hospital. Make up a better story. It doesn't have to be true because probably the one we're making up in the first place isn't true, right? Make up a better story. Do this practice every time you feel stressed about anything whatsoever this week. Stay present, stay focused. Number 2, write a prayer. In the lobby, we have these flyers. There are affirmative prayer treatment. It gives you the steps, it gives you a sample, and it gives you a place to write your own prayer treatment. This week, write an affirmative prayer for the person or situation that you are blaming for stress. Write a prayer treatment for them. Speak it every day. And for extra credit, say this affirmation for yourself. I choose compassion. I choose compassion. Today, stress is the leading cause of so many body challenges, weight issues, blood pressure, heart disease, even cancer. They're saying is caused by stress. Learning balance and harmony through spiritual practices is a great way to begin to choose how we're going to respond as opposed to those automatic reactions that continue to bring stress into our lives. I want to close with a final quote from Ernest Holmes. He says, by taking total responsibility for your life, by giving up all blame and all judgment, by releasing the past and forgiving all the people who are or who have been in your life, including yourself, you are now ready to experience dominion and personal freedom. This week, let's give up blame and judging and take total responsibility for our lives. And so it is. And now it's your turn. So, what would you like to talk about judgment, blame, or stress this morning? Well, come on up here.
I love to point the finger. So, as a special needs mom, this is always my practice field. I always feel like, working with so many different personalities in my home with my kids, it's just sometimes really aggravating for me. I'll just come out and say it. And so when I heard this talk today and this concept, I had already started reading an Emmett Fox thing on forgiveness. And so I just have to figure out the fine line between someone else actually not being in their higher self, knowing the good that they ought to be doing, and me stepping forward as mom and bear mom saying, do your job. So anyway, maybe you can shed some light on that.
Let me see if I can rephrase that question or comment. So usually when we are, I'm going to go higher elevation than your family because I don't know all your family. I know these two. Usually when we are judging or blaming someone for not walking truth or being in truth or higher self, as you say, not being in the higher self, that's just pure and simple judgment. That is us projecting on them that they are no longer an individualized expression of the divine, that they've become something else. Well, we all have our moments of that, of course, but no. So we need to elevate that, and it's so we so love to project our beliefs, our sense of right and wrong, and that's where we get into trouble with judgment and blame. And when we can recognize that we're each and every one individualized expressions of the divine, that we're all magnificent spiritual beings, and the choices that we make for the experience that we want to have individually are our right. And if we're bouncing off of each other and not getting along because of that, can we communicate our way through that? There are people that we're not, we don't all get along with everyone, but we elevate that into that spiritual of love everyone, right? We talked about that last week. And so it is challenging because we do like to have everybody believe the same way that I believe because that's comfortable. That's comfortable. We're all going the same way. That's comfortable. But when it starts to get bumpy and rocky and the paths start to go like this, that's when it gets challenging for us. And so that's the hard work. That's the challenging work, is to, can I still see them? Can I separate the act from the actor? Can I still see them as the wholeness that God is, even as they're making these choices that I wouldn't make? Close?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Two right here. Go ahead.
The story about the night just brought to mind a quote from Reverend Petra Weltis about truth. She says, "The truth is always the truth, whether we know it or not. Mm-hmm. It works for us only in proportion to our awareness of it." So I think about it in terms of truth with a small t, but also the truth with the big T in terms of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. The guru, Reverend Petra.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm retired now, but I've spent most of my career doing crisis management for the fire department and the police department. And what I found in my own life in observing this is most of the things that we're worried about or stressed about don't matter. There are some really big things that do matter. So if you slow it down and put it into perspective, that does this really matter? If I'm late for something, does it really matter? If somebody's hurt my feelings, does it really matter? Can't we make it up tomorrow? I think it was so devastating, some of the things I saw and how people dealt with it. And I really realized that my life is blessed every day. And I'm so appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Beautiful. In the big picture, if I'm 5 minutes late to work, nobody died here. Yeah. Anyone else?
So stress was big for me this morning. And I started a new job, and I'm a safety guy. And last week I had to shut a job down because of a safety issue. And now I got to write up this whole thing and present it tomorrow. And I was stressing out over that. And I was like thinking I need to stay back. When I woke up at 5 this morning, I was all wound up and thinking I needed to not come here today. And then I was able to stop myself and say, no, I'm going to put my spiritual, I got up and had some quiet time and read some of the books and cleared my mind and said, and that'll make my job easier. Breeze, writing up that thing and be ready for tomorrow morning. And so it's already brought a lot of peace and relieved that stress. So yeah, that's my story.
Wonderful. Good. Thank you for sharing that. That's applying principle. Absolutely. And, you did your job. You did what you needed to do, and handling the report with compassion and through your spiritual heart and doing the right thing for protection of life and limb. It's absolutely good for you. Good for you. Thank you for coming. Who else? One more.
I'm Joshua.
Good morning, Joshua.
Hi guys. I know I just walked in kind of, but hi. I'm just here. I didn't. I'm waiting for my wife right now. She's in the bathroom. That's the whole reason why I even came here. But I just got saved the other like maybe 2 weeks ago, and I've always been with God like my whole life, kind of like it's crazy. I don't know. I'm just like realizing this. I'm 24 or 25, I think, because my birthday got mixed up somehow. Like throughout, it's just like coming up from Jamaica and stuff like that. But like, I'm just realizing a lot in my life, and God has really been with me, and I'm just trying to really walk that walk. You know what I'm saying? And like I have been walking that walk. I'm realizing, and I got saved 2 weeks ago, and I just feel blessed. And I wanted to go to church today, but like I didn't have a church here in Scottsdale. I'm living in my car, and it's just God is good all the time, and I'm just glad I'm here right now.
Amen. We're glad you're here too. Welcome. Thank you for being with us this morning. All right. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this morning. We appreciate your wisdom that you share with us each and every Sunday. All right. Would you join me for prayer? So, as we go within, we recognize the one power and presence that is in, through, and as all. That power and presence is God, the source of all that is, that which is the creator, the created, and the creation. God is infinite. It is love, unconditioned and pressed down. It is wholeness, completeness. There's nothing missing, and there's nothing else. There's not God and anything else. And I know that I am a manifestation of this one power, presence, this one life. And as I know this for myself, I know this for each and every one gathered in this room today and online joining us in virtual community. And for those listening later, tuning into the broadcast, knowing that we are all connected. There is no separation of time or space. We are all one, united in the wholeness of love, united in the truth. And so, knowing that unity, that one, I speak my word for and about us, knowing, claiming, and accepting this day the absolute revelation of peace and wholeness, of prosperity and abundance, of joy and harmony in, through, and as each one of our lives. As we are able to use our practices and principles, as we are able to slow down, as we are able to recognize God in each and every being on this planet. For you're all those individualized expressions of light illuminating this planet. I know for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they are seeking prayer around, as they lift it into this prayer, that we as community lift that with them into the light, the wholeness, the compassion, the love that we are, God is, and knowing that whatever needs to be revealed is revealed, whatever needs to be healed is healed, that there is financial flow, that there is good, that there are loving relationships, there's peace and there's wholeness, clarity, joy, ease, and grace in, through, and as each one of our lives. And it is with a grateful heart, filled with thanksgiving, joy, gratitude, that I release this into the action and activity of law, and knowing that the word spoken is the word made manifest, and we release this into law, accepting that it is done by saying together, and so it is.